Hello everyone. Good day to all of you. So today I came up with the explanation or the description of the poem, a summary-wise description of the poem, that is Valediction Forbidding Morning. I'm not taking line by line description. I'm just giving you a total summary of each stanzas. Okay. So each stanza I will be concentrating on, and the poem is Valediction Forbidding Morning, written by John Donne. As you all know, John Donne was considered to be one of the greatest writers of metaphysical poetry. So we should know what is metaphysical. The term metaphysical refers, meta means beyond, physical means our physical structure, physical appearance and all, physical life. So all the poets belongs to this particular category, that is metaphysical poems or poetry. They used to focus on the themes which is beyond or which is about beyond the physical life. That means all of their poems will be having the themes of spirituality, rituals, spiritual love, so all these things, God, and their relationship with human beings and all. So these will be their main themes, and they always focused on the things which is beyond our physical life, okay, physical existence. And the main peculiarity of this metaphysical poetry is that all the poems will have a conceit in it. So conceit is actually a comparison between two things which will be entirely different from one another. There won't be any relationship between the things that the poets are comparing, but they will compare one thing with the other which is entirely different from one another, and which is not having any relationship, okay, any relationship with one another. So this will be the characteristic of metaphysical poetry. And this John Donne, he was considered to be one of the greatest poets of metaphysical poetry. And this particular poem, that is Valediction Forbidding Morning, was actually written in 1611 or 1612 for his wife Anne before he left on a trip to continental Europe. That means this poem can be seen as a message or as an advice he is giving to his wife when he is leaving to continental Europe. And he was an ardent lover of travel or journey. He used to travel a lot and a lot and a lot. So all his travel is included any of the discoveries, okay. He wanted to have any discoveries through his works, through his travel actually. Before going into the travel or before moving to continental Europe, he was actually giving an advice to his wife, okay. He was giving an advice to his wife that how she has to forbid him, or how she has to say goodbye to him, or how she has to adieu him, okay. So this is the main context, or the main what we can say situation of the poem. That is, the poet is actually moving to continental Europe, and he is giving an advice, he was giving an advice to his wife that how she has to forbid him, or how she has to behave before he moves to Europe. So he starts the poem as an advice, okay. But this is actually a generalization. That means though he was giving an advice to his wife, this advice can be seen as an advice that he wanted to give to all the wives of the world, okay. A generalized advice can be seen in this poem. That means he wanted to give an advice not only to his wife, but it is actually focused on all the wives, okay, all the wives in this world who are, or who have to, or how a wife has to say goodbye to a husband before he starts a journey. So here in this poem we can say that we can see a lot of comparisons, okay. A lot of comparisons will be there, and these comparisons will be considered to be one of the best comparisons ever happened in the history of poetry. And I will just move on, okay, stanza one by one, so we can start it. A Valediction Forbidding Morning by John Donne. So I will read the poem, okay? As virtuous men pass mildly away and whisper to their souls to go, Well, some of their sad friends do say the breath goes now, and some say no. So he starts the poem by comparing, or what he wanted to say in the first stanza itself is that he was actually giving an advice to his wife that just like a virtuous man pass by, or just like a virtuous man dies, she has to be silent, because when the virtuous people will die, we can't understand that whether they have died or not. That means their disciplines, their friends, their family members, everyone will be surrounded by, or by this people, that is a virtuous man. Or when the virtuous man is in on his deathbed, that means when he was bedridden, or when he was deathbed, when he was in his deathbed, what happens is that his friends and relatives, okay, his friends and relatives will surround him around the bed. So what happens is that these people, they can't understand whether this person has died or not. Some will say that his soul has passed, or others will say that no, he was not dead, the soul was there in his body and all. But the other people will say that no, he was died. So everyone will be having a confusion that whether this person has dead or not, because that much silently he will die. So the writer says that just like the virtuous men pass mildly away, or just like the virtuous man dies without giving any warning, without giving any notification, or without making too much of noise, this wife has to forbid him like a virtuous man dies. Then in the second stanza, I will read the stanza. So let us melt and make no noise, no tear floods, no sigh tempests move. It were profanation of our joys to tell the lady our love. So then the writer says in the second stanza that so we have to melt together. That means though we are separating from one another for a short span of time, we have to melt so that we can make no noise, no tear floods, no sigh tempest. So here again we can see the comparison that the poet is making here. The poet is actually comparing the tears that comes from the eyes of his wife with that of the flood. So he is comparing the tears with the flood, and also he says that her sigh, okay, her sigh is being compared with that of the tempest, okay, sigh tempest. So he is giving an advice that he was giving an advice that she don't have to make too much of noise, she don't have to make tear floods, that means she don't have to cry too much, weep too much, and she also don't have to make any noise, okay, sigh tempest, she don't have to make any noise as sigh tempest and all. But what they have to do, it is their pleasure, okay, it was their profanation. Profanation means it's their pleasure to tell to other people, to tell the common people, or to show the common people how they love each other. So according to the writer, their love is something spiritual, not physical one, it is a spiritual love. So the writer says that they have to show to the common people, they have to show to the other people that how much they love each other, okay. Then in the next stanza, I will read, moving off the earth brings harms and fears, men reckon what it did and meant, but trepidation of the spheres, though great far, is innocent. And then here again we can see the comparison or conceit here. Here the writer is actually comparing the common people's love. That means moving off the earth brings harm and fears, men reckon what it did and meant. So the people, so the poet says that the common people's love, that means the people who are physically attracted towards one another, who had some infatuation between them, who had some love affair between them and all, the common people's love or separation will be like that of the effect that the earthquake was giving. That means when an earthquake will happen, what will happen is that every people who are in that place will be affected by this earthquake. So just like that, the distance between the physical people, between the common people, it will affect them. But the writer says that his and his wife separation won't affect them, because their love or their separation would be like the trepidation of the sphere or the movement of the sphere. So the writer says that when the sphere will move one another and they will collide with each other, many things will happen, but no other sphere will be noticed about this. Okay, no sphere will notice this, and no sphere is affected by the movement or the collision of the spheres on the sky. So the writer says that just like the trepidation or the moment of the sphere, we have to separate from one another, and we don't have to, or our separation won't be affected by us. That means, though they are separating, it will be like that of trepidation of the sphere, which is not at all affected by anything else, and don't have to be like that of the earthquake, which affects the common people or which affects many people, and it is like the common people's separation. So the common people's separation will definitely going to hurt them, definitely going to affect them, but their separation, that means the poet and the wife separation, won't affect themselves. So they don't have to affect themselves. That is what the writer wanted to focus on. Then the next line or the next stanza: dull sublunary lovers love, whose soul is sense, cannot admit absence, because it doth remove those things which elemented it. But we, by a love so much refined that our selves know not what it is, inter-assured of the mind, careless eyes, lips, and hands to miss. So in the next stanza, what the writer wanted to convey is that the dull sublunary lovers love, that means the common people's love or the common people's separation, why they are not able to bear is because their love is totally dependent on the physical structures like eyes, lips, hands, and other physical structures. So the writer says that the dull sublunary lovers love, whose soul cannot admit absence, because it doth remove those things which elemented it. That means when two common people, when they will separate one from one another, what will happen is that their soul cannot admit the absence, as their love is totally what we can say is totally dependent on the physical structures, not on the mind, not on the soul, not on the heart and all. It was totally dependent on the physical structures. So because of that, they can't admit their separation. So that is what the writer wanted to convey through this poem. That means the common people, they can't afford the separation because their love is totally dependent on, or their love was totally dependent on physical structures. So they can't be separated. They will always think about their eyes, their lips, their hands and all. So they can't afford that separation. They can't bear that separation. But in the case of the lover, a poet and his wife, their love is something spiritual. Okay, they are connected with each other as inter-assured of the mind, because they are connected with each other through spiritually, or they are connected with each other with only their hearts, with only their minds, with only their soul. They are spiritually in love with each other. So because of that, they can afford the separation, as these physical structures of their love is not at all going to affect them or disturb them. So in the next stanza, and this stanza is one of the most my favorite most favorite one, because in this stanza the writer is giving a comparison or making a comparison between their souls and that of the most what we can say sensational one. Okay, I will read for you. Our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion, like gold to airy thinness beat. If they be two, they are two so. So yes, so here in this stanza, the writer is actually comparing their two souls with that of the airy thinness beads of gold. That means the thin field or foil of gold. With that, she is actually comparing their souls. So what he wanted to say is that our two souls, therefore, which are one, though I must go, endure not yet a breach, but an expansion like gall to airy thinness beat. So the writer says that their souls, though they are separating from one another, though he will move what we can say further and further from her, but their souls has to be connected, and their love will become strong as the airy thinness of gold. That means it is believed that when we beat the gold, or how much the gold will expand from one another, or how much thin it will become by beating. So when we beat gold, it will become very thin, just like an airy thinness. That means just like an air which will be having no weight and all, and it will just increase their size. Okay, it will become large to one another. And the writer says that just like that, their separation will be very long, and the distance will be very farther and all. But what happens is that just like a gold which expansion or which expands and which becomes stronger and stronger, like that expansion, that means how much the gold is expanding, that much it will become strong, or it will become hard and all. So that is what the writer also says, that how much he will be away from her, their love has to be that much strong, like that of gold. Okay, so how much we beat a gold, it will become expand, and how much it will expanding, the gold will become that much strong. So just like that, he and his lovers or his wife's soul or love will become stronger as he go far and far from her. Okay, I think it's clear to you. Then the next one, if they be two, they are two so, a stiff twin compasses are two, thy soul, the fixed foot, makes no show to move, but doth if the other do. And though it in the centre sit, yet when the other far doth roam, it leans and hearkens after it, and grows erect as that comes home. So the writer says that a very beautiful comparison he was actually giving. What he wanted to say is that their souls are just like the two legs of a compass. Can you see, guys, the comparison? He was actually comparing their two souls with that of the two legs of a compass. A compass is an instrument which we use to make a circle, and can you imagine, he compared his souls, his love, he and his wife are compared with that of the two legs of a compass. Okay, two legs. And what he says is that his wife's soul or his wife is just like the leg of a compass which is fixed on the paper. Okay, if the compass is fixed on the paper, then only the other leg which is having the pencil, which is holding the pencil, can complete the circle. Isn't it? You just imagine a compass in your mind, and a compass will be having two legs. One leg which will be fixed on the paper, so that the other leg which is holding the pencil can make a circle complete and can give a perfect circle for you if one leg will be perfectly what we can say perfectly sticked on the paper. So just like that, he says that his wife's soul or his wife's soul is like that of the compass leg which is fixed on the paper, so that he can complete the circle, so he can complete his roaming, so that he can complete his travel, so that he can complete his wandering, and he can come back to home just as one is completing the circle, and they will get a perfect circle. So is it a beautiful comparison? And this is the imaginary power, or this is the what we can say undescribable power of conceit. So that is what conceit is, because love, soul, compass, gold, these things have no connection with each other. But what Donne has did, he just compared all these things and made it beautiful. Okay, we can't forget these comparisons in our life, isn't it? Yes. So the writer, he says that when she will be firm, like the one leg of a compass, she has to be firm in the house so that he can come back to his home after the roaming. And then he completes the poem by saying that, such will thou be to me, who must, like the other foot, obliquely run. Thy firmness makes my circle just and makes me end where I began. So he is actually beginning his journey, or began his journey from the house itself, and his travel will be considered as a circle. He was making a circle, and though she is firm in her home, she has to be very firm, in very truthful, very loyal to him in love, and she has to be there in the house. She has to be firm like the one leg of a compass. Then only he can come back to the home to complete the circle. And from the home he began his journey, and he has to come back to his home to end that journey. Here, I think it's clear to you what all the themes that the writer gives to you, what all the messages that the writer wanted to give to you, and also the comparisons that the writer has made. Thank you.